This meeting of the Livingston City Commission is called to order. May we have roll call, please?
Chair Whitley,
Yes?
Commissioner Schwartz,
Yes.
Commissioner Freeman,
Here.
Commissioner Maybe,
Here.
Commissioner Newt. Here.
May we now have a moment of silence? Thank you. Please rise for the pledge.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So tonight we are going to request to move scheduled public comment A to now and before public comment because we have a group of students from SGMS that would like to speak on something and they have a concert to go to at 7 o'clock. So please come on up and introduce yourselves with your name and your address. So please state your names. You don't have to give your address, but normally you do if you do comment on anything on the agenda. Yep.
Hello, we are the SMS leadership class, and we're working with Habitat for Humanity of Park County, and we're putting on a fun run called Human March. My name is Claire Cowett, and we are putting on this race to help provide furniture for a family that is having a house built by Habitat Homes. And my name is Claire Cowett.
You said it at the beginning.
Okay. We have a permit for the hot cocoa. We will be submitting our baked goods recipes to the city health department.
The Kenda March is a fundraiser that will have 2 routes, an adult 5K route and a children's route. We prizes and a penguin leading the race back. We'll be charging $20 for adult center and $10 for kids and students. I'm Billy Bradley.
Hi, I'm Elise, and for safety, we will be working with the school nurses to provide first aid, and we've asked the city to provide cones to mark the course. And we also will have a race leader in front of the race and a sweeper behind for the safety.
I'm Elsa. Their adult route will start in the Park High School parking lot and go along Vista Drive to the Mayor's Inn Dog Park. We'll go back past the high school and onto River Drive, and passing the good and Shell, we'll turn onto the River Drive Trail and head towards the baseball fields. And once the runners reach the softball field number 8, they'll turn and keep going towards our school parking lot with fish tanks.
My name is Morgan Sykes, and we'll be working with some people from the community. First, we're working with Rotary to help plan and put on the event, and Maggie Tarr from the Civic Center to just because she has experience with races and will help us know how to put it on and plan.
We are asking for permission to have a race, street maintenance if there's bad weather, and traffic help by the
Okay. My name is Eva again, and we'd just like to thank you for letting us come and speak today, and we're wondering if you have any questions.
Commissioner, any questions?
I think it's a great idea, especially for Habitat for Humanity, good cause. Way to step up.
Mr. Cardus, do you have any updates on their process and where they're at?
They've done a good job. They've done all the applications through the Civic Center. Maggie has processed it for them. We've already talked to Public Works. We should be able to provide the cones to mark their route, and everything else looks like it's on track.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good luck at the concert. Next on our agenda is public comment. Individuals are reminded that public comment should be limited to items over which the city commission has supervision, control, jurisdiction, and advisory power. Please come up and state your name and address. Any public comment tonight? We'll move on to consent items. Do we have any consent items that the commission would like to pull for discussion? If not, do I have a motion on consent items A, B, and C?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I make a motion that we pass consent items A, B, C.
A second.
We have a motion by Friedman and a second by Neets. Roll call, please.
Chair Whitlight,
Yes?
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four,
Commissioner Freeman,
Four.
Commissioner Mayhew,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee.
Four. Motion passes. Tonight, we have no proclamations. We have canceled, scheduled public comment B by Jessica Neal. She will probably reschedule at another time. And we already had the SGMS students. Tonight, we have one public hearing. Public hearing on ordinance number 2076, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, amending ordinance 2004 as codified in Article 7 of the Livingston Municipal Code entitled Zoning Commission and Board of Adjustments by reserving to the City Commission the authority to grant or deny variances and special exception requests and by eliminating the Board of Adjustments. Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is the second reading, so you looked at this last meeting. None of the information has changed. However, we did provide on page 63 an example of what the policy would be going forward. So how it would work once it wasn't an ordinance. It is, as we explained to you before, the applicants would be able to come to the building and planning department. They would give us what their variance request was. The staff would analyze that and then provide a recommendation back to them on whether or not they'd like to move forward. If they do want to move forward at that point, then they would be required to pay the filing fees for the variance, which if you look on page 64, we will propose in a future resolution that that filing fee for residential be changed from 100 to 250, just to reflect that most of this work is going to be done prior to coming to the commission. So you will see later on. However, once that fee is paid, they will come before the commission itself for a public hearing. You'll be provided with the staff recommendation, which was provided to the applicant prior to their filing and appearing before the commission. And then the commission will hold a public hearing on it at that point and make the decision on whether to accept the application for variance or not.
To open this public hearing. I open this public hearing on ordinance number 2076. Any public comment on ordinance number 2076?
I'm all in favor for it. In number 6, personal experience, notifications.
Don, I know your name.
Sorry.
Say your name.
229 South Yellowstone.
Thank you.
Item number 6 on that. I know when there was one that was in the whatever boundary for myself, we never got the notice. So I called on and said, hey, we didn't get the notice. They were not looking at tax rolls to send those notices to. So I don't know where they were looking to send the notices, but proper notices should be sent out, not just, well, this is the database we use and it's not accurate.
Thank you. Do you have any ideas on what may have happened with that?
I don't, although we should be using we try to use the tax rolls provided by the treasurer, so that should be the current information.
Any other public comment on ordinance number 2076? This public hearing is closed on ordinance number 2076. Commission, do we have any questions or comments on the ordinance?
Go ahead, no, you said one.
Just a quick question, the filing fee will change from 100 to 250. Again, because of the work that's next to be done by the.
So there will be fewer, before we made them pay that filing fee before any work was accomplished.
Okay,
And now that doesn't cost anything. So if you were to apply for a variance and you received a recommendation that said that the staff does not support this variance, you can back out at that point. It costs you nothing. So the only people that want to continue either to contest that they should still get the variance, or ones where the staff has recommended they should get the variance, will be charged a fee. So there'll be quite a bit of work that the staff does that no one ever has to pay for, because we're given the opportunity to back out before they come to the commission.
thank you.
That answered my question.
Any other questions from the commission? Do we have a motion on ordinance number 2076?
I will accept ordinance 2076.
I will second.
We have a motion by Maybe and a second by Schwartz. Roll call, please.
Chair Whitman,
Yes?
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Freeman,
Four.
Commissioner Maybe,
Well,
Commissioner Nick.
4. Motion passes. I do want to clarify that means 30 days from today it goes into effect.
That's correct.
So at that time, any variances from then on will come to the commission.
That's correct. We'll start the work in between to give recommendations to people that already have requests on file, so that when it is available, the first available commission meeting after that, they'll already have their recommendation and they can decide whether or not they want to go forward.
And then the filing fee.
That will-
Resolution.
It does. That'll come before you again. This was just to kind of give you what our intent was behind that policy, and we can have that discussion probably at the next meeting, but I guess.
Tonight, we have one ordinance, ordinance number 2077, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, amending ordinance number 1869 entitled, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Livingston establishing its rules of procedure for conducting city business in a fair and open meeting, which encourages public participation in the decision-making process of local government as codified by Article 11, Section 2-10 through 2-35 of the Livingston Municipal Code, by removing sections of the existing ordinance for the purpose of increasing efficiency and flexibility, changing the meeting start time, and moving deleted sections to a policy manual for city commissioners. Mr. Carlos.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this was what has come about of the request to move the start time. In reviewing that, there was a lot of what I would call administrative details that were outlined in the actual ordinance instead of in a policy manual. What this will do is remove most of those administrative issues out of the code itself, and then we will create a policy that we can move going forward. What that does is allow us, if you want to do things like change the start time, or even change technically where people sit when they make public comment, it doesn't require an ordinance, a public hearing, and a 30-day waiting period. We can just vote on the resolution to change the policy manual, and then it would be effective immediately. So it gives us some more flexibility and I think a little more efficiency in being able to change procedures for the meeting that best reflect how you would, as commissioners, would like it to proceed. So this ordinance will take those administrative items out of the code itself. We will provide them to you in a policy manual. Again, we still have to go through the 30-day wait period on this as well. In that time period, we'll provide you with what we think the policy should be. You guys can give us our input on that, and we should be ready to go once this is all in effect.
Thank you. Any public comments on resolution number 4833? Whoops, wrong number, sorry. Ordinance number 2077, sorry. Any public comment? Any commission questions or comments? I have one comment. I think it's a good idea to streamline this issue a little bit. We've, in the past, the process of changing things that are pretty small, or it's time consuming for staff and for the commission, and I think it's a better, efficient way of managing meetings. So no other comments? Do we have a motion from the commission on ordinance number 2077?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I make a motion, we pass ordinance 2077. I'll second.
We have a motion by Friedman and a second by Maple. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Herbert?
Yes?
Commissioner Schwartz?
Four.
Commissioner Friedman?
Four.
Commissioner Maybe?
Four.
Commissioner Rea?
Yes. Motion passes. Next on our agenda, we have one resolution, resolution number 4833, a resolution authorizing participation in the Board of Investments of the State of Montana Annual Adjustable Rate Tender Option Municipal Finance Consolidation Act Bonds Intercap Revolving Program, approving the form and terms of the loan agreement and authorizing the execution and delivery of documents related thereto. Mr. Cardis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this resolution provides the authority to sign the documents needed to participate in the Intercap revolving loan program. The issue, although you have to get, I think, 7 or 8 pages into the package to realize what it's for, it's to purchase a street sweeper. The current street sweeper last year was, well, over the past few years has been notoriously broken. We've had some major repairs last year at the end of life. We do have an opportunity. We also budgeted for this in this current year budget. If you if you happen to be carrying your budget book on you, it's on page 86, but we budgeted for it under vehicles where we have the outlay for the entire amount. Through the Intercap loan program, we're able to finance that over a couple of years at some pretty favorable terms. What that allows us to do is take advantage of a current sale that's going on with the manufacturer. So we can get a reduced cost to the new street sweeper. But while taking into account our timing of purchases, obviously we try not to make these major capital purchases in the beginning of the year when we still haven't received our tax payments. So this will allow us to purchase it and then finance it through until the tax money actually comes in. Right now, we're looking at doing this over a 2-year period, so it'd be a 2-year loan. But the nice part about the Intercap revolving loan fund is we can pay that off whenever we want. So if there's something cheaper, we can just buy that down. And if we came in on the budget, we can use the excess to pay that off. And that is our intent. So this was already budgeted, but we're using the financing to try and save the city a little bit of money as we go forward with the purchase.
Any public comment? Public comment on resolution number 4833.
I'm glad too nice off Yellowstone. My only comment here is I'm all for it, but if you spend the money and the streets still don't get swept, isn't there a better use of our money? Because you know what I'm talking about. I mean, we passed the ordinance last year, gonna start ticketing, towing. Actually, there were a few tickets written, but for the most part, I think the residents would say my streets were not swept any better now than they were before. So it's a lot of money to spend on something that is not gonna get the job done. Are we gonna get it done or not? No comments?
Answer.
I'm just asking, I mean, no, you say Yellowstone, there's cars there, sweeper goes around it. Don't get our streets swept. So why spend the money if we don't get our streets swept?
Well, and we do have a officer, and we did have a transition from in that position, unfortunately. Do you have any feedback on that, Mr. Cardis, on the officer and the ticketing and the potential for being more efficient with the street sweeper?
I would say that last year was probably the most efficient year in street sweeping we've had in a while.
I agree with that.
And I only expect it to get better. And we are actually, one of the things we're looking at this week over the winter months is how do we want to utilize that resource? Because it is a lot of money for a piece of equipment, and we want to make sure that we use it in the most efficient way possible. So we're looking at street sweeping schedules, what's actually necessary, what's purposeful, what works the best. So
Does the sweeper, does this one have the ability to pick up leaves?
Yes, it does.
So I think if I recall right, union contracts kind of dictated the schedule. Is that going to be looked at? Because it seems ideally, the streets would be swept, like October, you'd still be doing sweeping to get the leaves.
We are relooking at the entire schedule, beginning to end.
So there's a chance that that schedule and the contract can be redone. If I had that wrong, maybe I had it wrong.
There's a chance.
Great.
And if you want to look at the equipment that's on it, you have an agenda on page 118 and 119. It shows you all the capabilities, all the attachments, everything that's going to come with the street sweeper.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
I'd still like to have the streets swept, so spend the money, get them swept.
Any other public comment? Commissioners, do you have any comments or questions? Warren?
Two, in defense of the street sweeper, last year, I think, was a really large step forward by putting signage up for reminding everyone when they shouldn't be on that side of the street. As little as a step as that might seem, I think it was pretty large. On the negative side, I would have liked to have heard the details about this prior to voting on it. In terms of the options that are available, I mean, is the old one totally dead? There was, a couple years ago, there was a question, I think, about a garbage truck, whether to repair it or replace it. And I'm not pretending to be the mechanic that would know the details, but I would like to know what the options were overall before making a decision. I am happy to hear that it was in the budget. I didn't go through the budget line by line, so I did not see that purchase. Thank you.
Do you want to address that statement or question? Sir, did you have a question on it, Warren, or do you want to just make that?
No,
statement?
my only, again, negative comment is the fact that I would like to have heard about it before voting on it.
So more details, more,
Just previous, just the timing. The timing, that's all.
any other questions or comments from the commission? I will state, I know we have discussed the street sweeper for a very long time as it breaking down, and we were putting quite a bit of money into it that was wasted in the long term. And I recall at one point that we were out of this street sweeper, how many months? 4 or 5 months. We lost pretty much a season. So about 3 years ago. So I know it's been a discussion for a long time, but on the other hand, I don't recall any discussion on, options or various things like that, like we were talking, Warren. One question I do have, and I know we've addressed this in the past, is what is the plan for our current street sweeper? I know we went through the fire truck situation of that, selling it, giving it, I guess, to another district, fire district, and it was heated up a few people. So I'm just curious what, yes. Thank you.
So as far as the other street sweeper was, it was operational at the end of last year. It just can't take the number of hours that we put on it per year. It breaks down consistently. So the intent is to keep that street sweeper as the backup. If the new one has any trouble, if it needs to go to the shop, if it just needs servicing or whatever, we would have another street sweeper. Where now we have to cancel that sweeping, the scheduled sweeping, if there's a problem with the street sweeper. We now have the ability to have a backup. So we plan on keeping it because we did fix it last year and spend the money to do that. We will use it just in reserve in case there's any problem with the new one.
Rent it out to people.
We could rent it. I guess we could see if Gardner needs
Yep,
one.
gardeners. I've heard. Any other questions? Any other questions from the commission? Do we have a motion on resolution number 4833?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 4833.
Second.
We have a motion by Schwartz and a second by Friedman. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Herbert,
Yes?
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Friedman,
Four.
Commissioner Maybe,
Four.
Commissioner Lee.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next on our agenda, we have 3 action items. Our first action item is to discuss, approve, deny permission to consider Carol Lucy's application for reappointment to Cities, Parks, and Trails Board. Now, I just want to clarify this before we move forward in it. This was put in the wrong place in the agenda just by accident. So normally this request is put into the action items. I mean, consent items instead of action items, and we now have in the action items, so we will have to vote on it. So, but normally, if we wanted to pull a candidate in for discussion, we would do it at consent items. Just an FYI. So, do you want to, so Mr. Curtis on this, or is that on me?
No, I think that's the important point. Usually these are consent items. It was just mistakenly put in the action items. So there's no staff concern. There's no reason it ended up in the action items. It just got shoved in the wrong spot. So this was the recommendation by the Parks and Trails Committee, and the staff saw no reason to go any other direction. So
Any public comment on action item A? Commissioners, any comments or questions? My only comment is I am on Parks and Trails with Carol, and she is a very hardworking individual who I think does a lot for our community in multiple ways, as well as she's on the school board. And the time she puts into organizations is amazing. So I'm a big supporter of her. Yep. Do we have a motion or any other comments?
I move we accept Carol's application.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Maybe and a second by Schwartz. Roll call, please.
Chair Herbert,
Yes?
Commissioner Schwartz,
Yes.
Commissioner Friedman,
Four.
Commissioner Maybe,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next on our agenda is to discuss, approve, deny Gateway Local Tax Option Joint Letter of Support to Montana Legislature. Mr. Curtis.
thank you, Madam Chair. So this came from our last meeting. Commissioner Nunes had asked us to draft a letter a joint letter of support for both the city and the county. We drafted this with the county. They elected to actually look at this today in their commission meeting. They have approved and signed it. So they have already signed on for this letter of support. That will go to Senator Hess, Representative Redfield, and Representative Bishop. Hope you had a chance to read the letter itself. Your action tonight won't change anything other than sending a letter of support, so it's not actually passing anything or resulting in actual ordinances for the city. It's just a statement to our representatives that this is what we'd like them to carry to the State House in Helena. We actually are asking them to carry it, and if not carry it, we support it. And I'm happy to answer any of the questions on the draft bill that went to the local government committee.
Any public comment on action item B?
Leslie Bible. Excuse me, Livingston Chamber and CVB. Excuse me, I'm tired. I just wanted to, I went to the county commissioners meeting this morning, and there was just a couple things I wanted to bring up. With the chamber college here in Livingston, as long as it's been here, business supported service in our community, we do what we can to support our businesses at every level. And that means the tourists that come to visit them or the locals that shop here and live here. With the CBB, as you know, this city commission
appointed the CBB to us in 2014, and we've been marketing this community to tourists all over the world and trying to do it in a fashion that is equitable for everybody in our community. We were not brought in, actually, I think this is really great. Having the chamber and CBB at the table when these type of items are discussed so that we can have the best voice in the community. I guess, letting your community members know that a tax might be coming. Also informing them that the state is very close to a tax in 2020. And all of the above, that is something that we participate in the chamber on our monthly meetings with the Department of Commerce. And I'm just asking that we move forward, be a part of this so that we can have the best voice for our business community, as well as maybe getting it into our tourism community, which means our local newspapers, social media sites, the way that we address this to our tourism community, instead of saying we're going to back the tax on the back of tourists. Those kind of comments are taken very negatively, and the person who addresses those issues is me at the chamber and CBB when we get the calls or the social media posting that's after. So I'm asking that if we could be a part of the conversation moving forward, my board and myself would be greatly appreciated. And that way we can inform our business community here in Livingston on things like this that will affect definitely our tourism moving forward. Thank you.
Any other public comment on action item?
Okay, my name is Connie Pierce, and I'm speaking on behalf of Clark County Environmental Council. So, first of all, thank you for your time and attention to this issue. And PCC would like to encourage the commission to approve and move forward with a letter of support. From our understanding, we are really excited about the potential for the tax to be reinvested back into our community, whether that be conservation issues or mental health resources or other initiatives that are beneficial to our community. And that was it for PCC. And as a personal comment, I'm at 215 South I. And I personally believe in being taxed as a tourist elsewhere or even in my own town to reinvest in our community, because I think it's a really important part of being just integrated on different levels and supporting different initiatives that you may not be involved in in your own giving. That is it. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments on the letter of support?
Not so much on the letter of support, I'm all for it. I like the letter. It's basically just, I guess, to clarify that we're just asking for the authority to be able to tax, not to say exactly what we're taxing or anything like that at this point. Just getting this to the legislature and then through. I mean, we're not at a point here yet where we're ready to discuss, taxing meals, medicine, food, whatnot, but giving us a vehicle to be able to do tax and basically have tourists pay their fair share. That's all.
And this, just to clarify that, or to add to that, I should say, because this would be brought to the voters
Oh, yeah.
from there. So I don't know if people realize that. Like when I spoke about today, we talked about it, that this isn't saying we as a commission are supporting that we want the consideration to the for the legislature to consider it so that our community and our size town can have the option for this resort tax if the voters approve that. Am I right in saying it like that?
You are, and so it's really a two-phase process. This phase is just this is just asking the state to give us the authority to do this. This bill does set some, I would say some guidelines on what can be taxed. So things like groceries are actually directly excluded from even the ability to do that as a community. So there's a list of things that cannot be taxed. But as far as what is taxed, it's pretty open to the community to decide for themselves. So the first phase is just getting the authority from the state, similar to the resort tax. And then once, if the state passes this bill, then it would come back to each community to decide if we wanted to do it, in a time phase, if we want to do it with the county, if we want to do it separately, what would be taxed at what rate. So none of the details are decided by this particular bill. That's all done locally if this is passed. So this is just saying, hey, state, please give us the authority to do this if that's what our community wants.
Very well said.
And one last addition to that is that the size of our community has been the restriction to consider this previously. So they're looking at changing the size of the community.
It is, so it's the resort tax, which this is not, would be a separate issue. The resort tax is limited by two factors. One is by size of community. So whether you're a resort area, it's 2,500. If you're a resort community, it's 5,500. But the second part of that is the Department of Commerce has to determine that the majority of your economic activity comes from tourism, which is, there are no standards for that in the ordinance anywhere. That's just up to the Department of Commerce. This would basically say if your county borders a national park, you have this ability. So it's a little clear as to who can do it. It gives everybody in the county the ability to do it. It's fairly limited in scope, as there are 4 counties in Montana that border national parks, 2 on Yellowstone and 2 on Glacier. So this is a pretty narrow piece of legislation that would only affect those who are, we'd say, disproportionately affected by tourism, the ones that have the entrances to the national parks.
One last question. Do you know, as far as our representatives, has anyone mentioned if they're bringing it to the table in particular, any of these representatives?
So we've had some offers of sponsorship. So this letter really says we would like our local representatives to sponsor it because we believe this is a local bill for our local community. And we really love that support from our local representatives to bring it to the state. If they choose not to, we do have other offers to bring it to the floor of the House and the Senate. So there are legislators in Gallatin and Flathead counties that would be willing to bring it. So we do have some support in the legislature itself to bring this to the floor, but we'd really love our local representatives to carry it for us because it's for our local residents.
So, any other questions, commissioners?
I couldn't agree more with Leslie about her being in the loop or anything, any information or votes that are coming up. I've had a couple of small business owners having meltdowns, thinking of trying to keep track of what gets taxed and what doesn't get taxed. As a former small business owner, I can't imagine. We spent months figuring out our electric bill, so what part of the bill went to production equipment, what went to business lighting, and what didn't. It was incredible. So that aspect of it, I think, could be a real hassle. I can also understand why there has to be some tax placed on tourism or tourists for the burden that they put on local services. And unless you own a restaurant, a bar, a B&B, or a souvenir store, you're kind of excluded from, or a guide. If you're not directly in the tourist-related businesses, you're just getting the burden and not the benefit. So, thank you.
Kind of quick comment on that too. It absolutely is going to be some form of a burden on the whichever business owner it is. And that's actually baked into the bill also, is there is a portion of what they collect in the sales tax, they would get to keep to help pay for their administrative costs. So it's recognized that that is an issue, and it is in the bill itself to give them some relief, at least financially, from that burden of maintaining the records. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Do we have a motion from the commission?
I make a motion that the city commission sign the letter. The joint letter of support to the Montana legislature on the gateway local tax option.
Second.
We have a motion by Moose and a second by Freeman. Roll call, please.
Chair Hensley.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz.
Four.
Commissioner Freeman.
Four.
Commissioner Maybe.
Four.
Commissioner Rea.
Four. Motion passes. Next action item is action item C to discuss, approve, deny accepting the recommendations of the revolving loan fund selection committee. Mr. Carlos.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this was in regards to our CDGB revolving loan fund. That went out, we did a request for proposals. We received 2 applicants, Prospera, who is currently managing the fund, and the MSU Extension, who also put in a proposal. There was a selection committee that was comprised of the city side of myself and the finance director, Paige Federoff, and then the county also had 2 members on that board. The county and the city revolving loan fund are co-located, but they're not conjoined, if that makes sense. So the funds are in the same account, but we account for them separately. So this recommendation went to the county commission this morning as well, and they approved the recommendation. After looking through both of the packages, they both had pretty strong applications. Prospera had the more experience in managing revolving loan funds. They do it for several communities. The big advantage we thought to the extensions proposal was that it was a much more localized solution. Their office would be here, Prospera's office is in Bozeman. So local business owners that were looking to tap into the revolving loan fund would be able to do it in town. And that was what really drove our recommendation, was that the extension office would be a localized solution. So the committee came forward with the recommendation that we award this to the MSU Extension. While they didn't have as much experience, we thought their ability to be in the community, to know the business owners, to be more personalized for Livingston was a bigger advantage than having the experience of managing several of them. So that is the recommendation that is put forward to you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
First, any public comments on action item C? Any public comments? Commissioners, any questions or comments on action item C?
Just that I agree with what Mike said. I'd like to see it stay with the MSU Extension Office. And the work that Katie's been doing has been great. And the more we can keep her involved in this stuff, the better we are economically developing that way.
Yeah, I'd agree with it also because Prospera being in Bozeman and the magnitude of the work being looked at by that office is percentage-wise is Bozeman oriented, whereas this one, I think the emphasis would be more on Livingston.
Any other questions?
And also might add that I really like the work that Prospera has done. I think he's done an admirable job. He's done a lot of projects for the town. What's his name? I can't remember. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you.
I guess I will speak on this. We have discussed this when we were doing more city county meetings. We had discussions on this. Even before that, we have discussed going back and forth what would be the best utilization of our funding of a a position that addresses the economic needs of our community versus sending it out to Bozeman. And it has been a long time coming, I think, to look at this in a different way. And I think, I appreciate that it was brought to us. And that the county obviously is involved in this decision as well, and having a team of people from each side, county, city, making this decision really, I think, cements it and makes me happy for this whole process. So I appreciate it. Any other comments on this before we? Oh. Okay. So do we have a motion on, for action item C?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve action item C, accepting a recommendation regarding on fund selection committee. I'll second.
We have a motion by Freeman and second by Maybe. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Feldman,
Yes?
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Freeman,
Four.
Commissioner Maybe,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee.
Yes.
Motion passes. Any two city manager comments?
So a couple updates for you and then a scheduling question. We have, I think, now completed all of our strategic planning sessions with the staff. We have one more this week that is to kind of wrap it up and get it all in a presentable format. And hopefully we will be presenting the staff's recommended implementation of the mission, vision, values, and goals that you set in your portion of the strategic planning guide. So look for that to be coming forward. It's going to be a pretty hefty document. I think it's really well done. A lot of effort has gone into it. And it should feed into a bunch of the other projects that are ongoing. In that vein, the public meetings that we were planning on to talk about overpass, underpass, separated grade crossing, we decided to hold those off until we finish the strategic plan to see how it fit in with the rest of the major capital projects that the city was looking at. So that will be part of that recommendation. Once you receive that, then we'll start scheduling the public meetings for the strategic plans done. We thought that was a better order to do it instead of doing the strategic plan for a project and then trying to fit it into the strategic plan for all the projects. So that will also be upcoming. The only other issue is we would like on the next meeting on 8 January to do a 5:30 update on litigation. So we can update all the commissioners on litigation items that are going on with the city. That will be a closed session for litigation strategy. Let's see if that's available in your schedules.
Commissioners? Any conflicts? So that would go from 5:30 to 6:30 for the commission meeting. And then,
Can we move the commission meetings to 5:30 though?
yeah, the second meeting.
Oh, okay, I thought this
That's
started.
gonna be, and then one to
Okay.
first of February.
It'll be 30 days from the next reading, so,
Oh, okay, so it'll be
Thank
in
you.
February.
which is the whole reason we're putting it in a policy and not in.
Yeah,
Right.
I have no conflict.
It's practice. Sure.
Yeah. So it's a 5:30.
5:30 on the 8th. We've already moved the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other? Commissioners? Any comments to me? Melissa?
Yes, I just wanted to point out that the planning board meeting is incorrect on the calendar of events. That meeting happened last week. And thanks to Warren for the heads up, we were able to both attend that, and so be a smooth transition, hopefully. And also I was wondering if there's a way that we can include on the agenda board openings for the boards. Well, especially the the 5 boards that we're on. But other boards, if there was a way that could be included in the agenda, just to increase public awareness of board openings. I know that they're in the newspaper, but sometimes those are buried in fine print and folks don't always get to them there. Is that a possibility?
Website, which is nice.
And I just want to thank the students. Jarrell, I could pass on the thanks to them. I know they were in a hurry, so I didn't want to keep them, but I think it's super refreshing when young people, they can't vote yet, participate in local government, because I think they have really, it's just powerful. And I think this is an example of like a really lovely thing for the community, what your students brought today. So if you could pass that on, I think that'd be wonderful. And
That's the principal, one of the principals made them.
so you can be like the good cop, bad cop. You can be the one that thanks them. And thanks to the public for coming and speaking up. I think it always makes the meetings better when there's public participation. So thank you and happy holidays to everybody.
I second the happy holidays.
That's it. Simple.
That's it.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody. We've had a good year. And I think we worked well together. And I wish everybody a safe holiday coming up. And next year should be very exciting. We got a lot of good things in place and a lot of good things going on. So I appreciate that. And water treatment plant we accomplished downtown. I think we did a heck of a pretty full year. And so I wish everybody a very safe holiday. Thank you.
I attended the Christmas stroll. I enjoyed it. Nice job, Leslie. That was fun. And weather couldn't have been better. I tell you what, almost didn't even need the fires, but yeah, it seemed like it was well attended. I enjoyed it. Other than that, happy holidays. Looking forward to the new year and a full agenda.
I have one particular thing to bring up, and that is starting in January during my public comment or my commissioner comments, I'm going to do what I tried to come up with a name for it. A proclamation that's coming from me only, by the way, versus the commission, but a proclamation of appreciation for various community members. So I received a Christmas card or a holiday card from two of the two members in our community, and it prompted me to think that one of the things we don't do enough is sort of point out the awesome that we have in our community. So I will start that to do it monthly on appreciating our community member too. I thought that, or wear a different t-shirt every week, or every meeting, but I decided to just proclaim appreciation. So that is my plan, and happy holidays, everyone. So it's already time. So fast, I don't know what to say next.
I don't know what to do.
So yeah, what do I do? So this meeting of or do I have a motion from the commission for adjournment? Thank you. This meeting of the Livingston City Commission is adjourned at 7:25.
Well, it looks like a